Chapter 42-33. Zhongli slowly puts down the wineglass in his hand. Suddenly he raises his hand and ruthlessly slaps Emolien's face. Emolien, do you know that you almost ruined my entire plan? Emolien's head buzzes from the slap and she almost faints. There's a terrible energy rampaging through her body. She spits out a mouthful of blood but she quickly kneels properly. Her voice is frightened. Master, Emolien knows she was wrong. I beg you to give me another chance. A pair of ice-cold, corpse-like hands clutches her throat, forcing her to raise her head. If it weren't for the fact that your face still has some use, you would have died without a complete corpse when you disobeyed my orders. Zhongli releases her chin, takes out a silk handkerchief, and gently wipes his hands. He warmly says, "Tell me everything that happened after Her Highness entered the priest hall, especially about the old man beside the princess. Don't omit a single detail." Emolien is still in a state of shock for a long time before she realizes who, the old man beside the princess, is. She didn't even see what the old man looked like, let alone what he did. But she doesn't dare to disobey Zhongli's orders. She hurriedly recounts everything that happened before in full detail. "What did you say?" Zhongli suddenly turns around and stares at Emolien in disbelief. Her Highness used the sound of the zither to control the blood servants, making them completely surrender? Only now does he realize that the connection between his soul and the blood servant has been severed. Oh, how is this possible? Jun Mayan isn't a priest, so how can she control the blood servant? Moreover, how can there be a zither sound in this world that can imitate the blood curse? Unless, that wasn't an ordinary zither sound but, ha. The shock on Zhongli's face suddenly turns into an excited laughter. So that's how it is. That's right, it's a Shin musician. Only a Shin musician can take control of the blood servant from my hands. Master, I really didn't expect that the Shin musician you've been looking for so long would finally appear. But who is that old man following Jun Mayan around? Why does the first time I see him, I feel a sense of crisis as if I'm facing a formidable enemy? Zhongli slightly narrows his eyes, a cold glint flickering in them. Yin, we can't go any further. On the Tong Tian platform, Jun Shitian stops Mu Yen, who wants to approach the Three Live Stone. The Three Live Stone was surrounded by a layer of pure black flames. Since a few months ago, a layer of flame barrier has appeared around the Three Live Stone. Anyone who tries to approach it will be devoured by the flames. Jun Shitian said solemnly, Yin, if you really want to see the Three Live Stone, I will open the barrier for you. In fact, even he would suffer from the backlash of these black flames. These flames were somewhat similar to the underworld sacred flames of the Nether Realm, but they seemed to be even more powerful than the underworld sacred flames he had seen before. However, as long as he did not hesitate to consume a large amount of his cultivation, it was not impossible for him to forcefully break this barrier. Wait a moment. Mu Yen stopped Jun Shitian, her gaze landed on the leaping black flames and softly said, "Let me try it first." Without waiting for Jun Shitian's reaction, she stretched out her hand and lightly touched the black flame. Yin, be careful. Chapter 42-34. Princess, you mustn't, that flame is the most and cold fire of the world that can burn a person's soul. Jun Shitian and the old man's faces change, and they want to rush over. But soon their movements come to an abrupt halt. Because the moment Mayan's hand touched the black flames, they seemed to have met their nemesis, and quickly retreated to the sides, making way for a passage. At the end of the passage, the Three Live Stone emits a dazzling silver-red light. Mayan closes her eyes and slowly walks towards the Three Live Stone. Every piece of Three Live Stone has been engraved with the names of countless men and women. They may not necessarily be fated people, may not necessarily accompany each other to old age, and may not even love each other sincerely. But at least they had a moment of fate and it was forever engraved on this stone. Mayan's fingers stroke the Three Live Stone inch by inch. As she touches it, some vague names appear on the Three Live Stone, and people can't see them clearly, and they immediately disappear. Until she turns half a circle and her fingertips are slightly hot. Finally, two dazzling names appear before her eyes, and they don't disappear again. Jun Mayan. Luo Yunshao. Mayan's fingers tremble violently, and the blood seems to be unable to flow to her fingertips, making her fingers ice cold. Young martial uncle, didn't you agree to this marriage? You don't like the demon princess? I did it voluntarily. This marriage, I did it voluntarily. I have no regrets in this life. Young martial uncle, it's really great that you can be together with the person you like. Young martial uncle, Why are you so stupid? So stupid? Suddenly the words under her fingers flash, and a crack slowly appears on Luo Yunxiao's name. And the originally dazzling light also fades a little. Mayan's eyes suddenly widen, as if a hand is tightly clenching her heart, making her unable to breathe. The three-live stone is cracked and the thread of marriage is broken. Perhaps Luo Yunxiao is already dead, so this marriage is no longer valid. Perhaps Luo Yunxiao is already dead. Already dead. Mayan clutches her chest and her body slowly falls down, bending into a ball. Some kind of scalding liquid surges out of her eyes and falls to the ground, turning cold. Young martial uncle. Young martial uncle. How could you die? How could you leave me such a secret and then tell me you're dead? Then how will I, Jun Mayan, repay what I owe you in this life? Yin Yin, what's wrong? You cried. What the hell happened? Did Luo Yunxiao bully you? Or do you like Luo Yunxiao and not Di Mingju? Yin, don't scare Daddy. If you really like them, Daddy will marry both of them for you. Yin. Through her blurry eyes, Mu Yin saw that Jun Shirtian was so worried that he could no longer maintain his calm. She could not help but smile. Jun Shirtian. Daddy. Why haven't you given up on letting your daughter hug me on both sides? After laughing, there was an even more heart-wrenching pain. Little Uncle Master had been born in this world for hundreds of years, but he had never enjoyed the warmth of family. He had been lonely all his life and had never obtained anything. They used to say that the Xiaoyao school was his home. They had tried their best to protect little Uncle Master and make him happy. However, it was all over. The young martial uncle of the Xiaoyao school would never come back. Chapter 42-35. Mercy City, Boundless Sea in the West. Outside Debii Temple, there was a huge town named Mercy City. Mercy City was the most peaceful and benevolent town in the world. No one dared to attack Mercy City, be it spirit cultivators or devil cultivators, polar domain or netherworld. That was because Debii Temple was at the center of Mercy City. There were 3 immortal masters in Debii Temple, plus Bodhidharma, the first Buddhist. However, at this moment, Mercy City was covered with corpses and blood. Who are you? Don't you know this is Mercy City protected by Debii Temple, the holy land of the Orthodox Alliance? What kind of demons are you? How dare you massacre people in Mercy City? Aha, Mercy City? Mercy my ass. 11 of the Dark Knight sect laughed hysterically. Those bald donkeys have done all kinds of evil things outside, leaving blood and pain to others, and then built a clean Mercy City here. Do you think it's a paradise? Bah. Do you know that your peace and tranquility are bought by stepping on other people's corpses and blood? The people of Mercy City had no idea what 11 of the Dark Knight sect was talking about. They just cursed angrily. Nonsense. The masters of Debii Temple are the most compassionate people. How could they do such evil things? You madmen dare to offend the sacred land of Buddhism and even slander us, tarnishing Buddha. You will definitely suffer retribution. 11 of the Dark Knight sect stopped laughing. Why do I have to talk nonsense with you idiots? I just need to kill. I don't believe those bald donkeys can still hide after I've killed enough people. Saber light flashed and blood splashed. Screams, wails, and curses filled the air, intertwined into the most sinful and bloody music in the world. 7 of the Dark Knight sect glanced at the battlefield from time to time from the high observation deck. Then he could not help but cast his eyes on the man who was leaning against the railing. His cold and fair skin looked as fair and transparent as jade under the sunlight. Even if one peeked from behind, one could still see the delicate and charming lines of the man's face. There wasn't a single part of him that wasn't perfect. There wasn't a single part of him that wasn't peerlessly handsome. There wasn't a single part of him that wasn't able to shake one's heart and soul. If such a man wasn't immortal, he would be the darling of heaven and earth. He would be the favored son of heaven that thousands of women and even men would crazily pursue. But now, who would have thought that he had already fused with the world-destroying half-soul and had become the destroyer that held the fate of the 3 realms and 6 paths in his hands? To be able to fuse with the world-destroying half-soul, the pain and torture this person had experienced must have far surpassed everyone in the burning heavens. In fact, the accumulated darkness and hatred in his body far surpassed all of them. But why did he look so devoid of love and hatred? Even when he arrived at Mercy City and saw the culprit who had ruined his entire life being massacred and tortured, there was not a hint of emotion on his face. He who was high and mighty, was like a demon god, looking down at the ants struggling to survive, as if he was watching a farce. There was no sadness nor joy. Dark Knight 7 had never been so deeply aware that Luo Yunxiao was different from the others in Fentian. He was the true king. He was the destroyer who could lead them to revenge and make the world completely collapse. 7 of the Dark Knight 7 clenched his hands, and strong emotions burst out of his eyes. Worship, excitement, desire, and awe. To destroy the world, let's start with destroying Defying Temple. Chapter 42:36. Stop. A loud shout came from the distant sky. It was not one person but dozens or even hundreds of people shouted in unison. In the blink of an eye, 18 monks clad in kasayas with golden bodies teleported into Mercy City, shielding the citizens behind them. Amit Ba. Which demon dares to commit murder in Mercy City? The citizens of Mercy City cheered. It's the 18 bronze men. The 18 bronze men of Defying Temple are here to save us. These demons can't hurt us anymore. Anya 11 looked at the monks of Defying Temple and sneered, Baldy, you're not qualified to talk to me. Ask Shan Hui or Pewdie to come out. Amit Ba, who are you? The monk who was the leader of the 18 bronze men said angrily, You want to see the abbot and patriarch Bodhidharma. Who do you think you are? Senior brother, there's no need to talk to these demons. How dare they kill in Mercy City? Today we must destroy their souls and make them unable to reincarnate. Hearing this, Anya 11's eyes suddenly turned red. He looked up to the sky and roared, 1,000 years ago, you wanted me to suffer all kinds of torture and die. But I survived. Now you want me to die again? Sorry. Every dog has its day and this time it's your turn. Defying Temple was the leader of the righteous path in the cultivation continent and the first holy land of Buddhism. In recent years, there was no lack of people who came to Mercy City to cause trouble and provoke them. Therefore the 18 bronze men did not take Anya 11 seriously. However, as soon as they started fighting, their expressions changed. Dark clouds gathered in the sky and thunder rumbled. It was so oppressive that they almost couldn't breathe. Shadow Thunder Curse? The leader of the 18 bronze men exclaimed. He stared at Anya 11, who was making incantation seals, and roared, Who are you? Ah, who are we? Of course we're here to kill you. Boom. As the lightning rained down, the black flames unknowingly wrapped around everyone's body. The citizens of Mercy City immediately let out shrill cries of agony. They fell to the ground, wailing and rolling on the ground. The 18 bronze men of Defying Temple were slightly better. The Buddhist staffs or alms bowls in their hands emitted a holy golden light, dispersing the black flames and preventing them from being burned by the curse fire. However, the Een thunder that had just fallen had caught them off guard. Several of them spat out a mouthful of blood. Shirlu returned to the temple immediately and informed the abbot. Yes. Amit Ba. The leading golden man put his palms together and looked up at the watchtower high above. I'm Jueming. Since you've come to the territory of Defying Temple and killed so many people, why don't you dare to come down and meet me? There was no response from the lookout tower. Anya 11 sneered, Who do you think you are? Do you think you're fit to see my master? I've said it before. After you die, those 2 bald donkeys, Shan Hui and Subhoodie, will come out. Naturally, my master will personally kill them. Jueming frowned. Who on earth are you? We, the Defying Temple, have been isolated from the world for more than 100 years. We believe that we have always been compassionate and have delivered all living beings from suffering. We have never done anything that goes against reason and nature. Why are you slandering us with filthy words and insulting the reputation of the Defying Temple? You even killed innocent people in Mercy City. Aren't you afraid of retribution? Chapter 42:37. Anya 11 laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke. However, before he could laugh out loud, Anya-san, who had been silent beside him, suddenly said faintly, You don't know the reason, but I think the new Master Xuanjin should be very clear about it, right? What? Master Xuanjin is here. That's great. Mercy City is saved now. Jueming's face lit up with joy. He hurriedly led the other people to put their palms together and bowed. Welcome, Martial Uncle Xuanjin. Everyone in Mercy City knew that. The current abbot of Defying Temple, Master Shan Hui, was the first disciple of Bodhidharma. Xuanjin was the personal disciple of Master Shan Hui, and also the elder of the Law Enforcement Hall. In Defying Temple, Xuanjin's cultivation and strength were second only to Bodhidharma's junior brothers and personal disciples. In Mercy City he was even more famous. After a while, they saw a monk in an ordinary yellow frock slowly land from the sky. Jueming's tense nerves instantly relaxed. Today the villains who attacked Mercy City were all ruthless, and they had tricks that he could not imagine. Originally, Jueming was really worried that the 18 bronze men would suffer heavy losses. Now that he saw martial uncle, Xuanjin, His heart immediately returned to its original position. As long as Martial Uncle Xuanzhen was here, these demons would not be able to do anything for long. As soon as Xuanzhen landed, he ignored Jueming and the people of Mercy City who saluted him. Instead, he stared at Anya 3 and then glanced at Anya 11, slowly frowning. Anya 3 stepped forward and reached out to pull off the veil on his face, revealing a scarred face. When one's cultivation reached the Xian immortal level, his whole body could be molded with immortal bones, and his skin wounds could basically be healed without medicine. Scars were also something that was almost impossible to appear. However, the scars on Anya 3's face were extremely horrible, revealing a blue and purple color that made people's scalps numb, as if there were countless worms slowly wriggling across his face. Master Xuanzhen, long time no see. Anya 3 said gently, "Oh, by the way, I forgot that Master Xuanzhen probably can't recognize me now that I look like a ghost." Xianzhen was stunned for a while. Then he put his palms together and softly said, "Amit Ba. I'm old and can't remember it clearly, but I still have some impression. Benefactor, your name seems to be Lin Yuqing, right?" "Shut up." The third master of the Dark Knight could no longer maintain his composure. He suddenly threw out a talisman of black curse and said, "Bald donkey, you don't deserve to call my name." Xianzhen took a step back and put her palms together. Golden light suddenly shone around her. When the black curse talisman collided with the golden light barrier, it was instantly incinerated. Xianzhen lowered his eyelids slightly. His voice was gentle, but there was a hint of coldness in his words. "I have already advised Uncle Master Wu Che to eliminate all evil. All the hosts have been infected with the evil karma of the world-destroying demon. Even if they are lucky enough to survive, they should be eliminated to prevent future troubles. Now it seems that my decision was correct." Good. That's great. This is the eminent monk of Debi Temple who cares about helping the world, ha ha ha. Chapter 4238. Due to unknown reasons, Sogu is unable to find us today. Dear readers, please remember our domain name, Sea of Books, and find your way home. Kill them all. I don't want a single person left alive in Mercy City. Heaven and earth are cruel to us, so we will drag everyone to hell with us. Hell? 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 Ah. Everyone in Fentian was crazy and fearless of death. They did not even care about the attacks from the monks of Debi Temple. They only knew how to kill people. The people of Mercy City fled frantically, but they could not escape. The entire Mercy City was sealed by Fentian's curse. People could only enter but not leave. The peaceful Mercy City became a real bloody hell at this moment. Master Xianzhen, your people are crying and begging you to save them. Is it really okay for you to chase after us? Anya 11, Anya 3 and Xianzhen were fighting. After a while, Anya 7, who was originally following behind Luo Yunxiao, quickly joined the battle. However, even if the three of them joined forces and used the Black Curse Talisman, they were still no match for Xianzhen. Xianzhen's cultivation had reached the peak of the Immortal King level, and he was only one step away from becoming an Immortal Venerable. He also had a holy celestial device given by his master, Shan Hui. The three people of Fentian were soon at a disadvantage. Anya 11 said this to distract Xianzhen. However, Xianzhen did not even look at the people of Mercy City who were wailing and screaming below. Even the screams of his martial nephews after they were killed did not faze him at all. There was only calmness on his face, and a murderous intent surged in his eyes. Everyone will die. Death is not scary. What is scary is the existence of world-destroying demons like you, who threaten all living beings in the world and the 3 realms and 6 paths. The people of Mercy City will understand that I can't save them, but I want to save all living beings in the world. Anya 11 felt like vomiting when he heard this. You bald donkeys talk so much, but you only know how to make others sacrifice and suffer. If you have the ability, go and die yourself. Go to hell. 11 Watch out. Bang. In his excitement, Anya 11 was careless, and the golden light went toward his chest. He heard the sound of bones breaking, followed by a sharp pain in his chest. Anya 11 was sent flying backward. He crashed into the ruins and wailed in pain. Countless rays of golden light twined around his body like thorns and swords, leaving one wound after another on his body and face. 11. Dark Knight 7's face changed, and he wanted to rush over to break the golden light around Dark Knight 11. However, he had only taken 2 steps when Xianzhen suddenly teleported in front of him. The demon subduing pestle, which was glowing with a golden light, smashed down on the top of his head. Dodge. Anya San's eyes were bloodshot. He suddenly rushed forward and hugged Xianzhen, saying, "Xianzhen, I will die with you." Black flames started to burn on his body and slowly wrapped around Xianzhen. This was the fire of the decaying curse. The trees around Mercy City began to wither rapidly, and the limestone ground beneath their feet turned into quicksand. The decaying curse, as its name suggested, could corrode the vitality and spiritual qi of all things in the world, and even human bodies and souls. The expression on Xianzhen's face finally changed a little. He raised his hand and pushed, sending the dark three flying dozens of meters away. Chapter 4239. However, the flames around his body did not disappear. Instead, wisps of them invaded his defensive barrier. Anya-san looked up to the sky and laughed. "Xianzhen, let the people of Debii Temple and all the people in Mercy City see the true face of Debii Temple. The decaying curse can corrode all the vitality of the surrounding land and devour the lives of all the creatures under the Shen immortal level." At that time Fantion placed the decaying life curse on the floating island. In order to dispel the decaying life curse, Di Mingju risked his own injuries so that the floating island could continue to survive. The floating island had nothing to do with Di Mingju, but he was willing to sacrifice his power for the lives of those ants. Fantion's long-handed clan, the Heavenly Crane, could use the decaying curse to perish together with the floating island. Di Mingju was forced to injure himself to save the thousands of creatures on the floating island. It showed how powerful the decaying curse was. Although I hate the hypocrisy of the so-called righteous sects, I still admire Di Mingju. What about Debii Temple? Do you only care about saving yourself, or do you give up your cultivation to save the tens of thousands of believers in Mercy City? Xianzhen's face turned green and white. He could hear the frightened and painful cries of the people of Mercy City. "Master Xianzhen, save us, save us." The ground under his feet had turned into yellow sand, which turned into a whirlpool, swallowing people little by little. And at the same time, their spiritual power and cultivation were also swallowed up. Jueming struggled to fly in the air to fight against the pulling force of the decaying curse. But it was getting harder and harder. He watched helplessly as the people of Mercy City were swallowed up by the whirlpool. Under the corrosion of the decaying curse, the cultivation of his fellow apprentices disappeared little by little, and their faces aged little by little. "Uncle Master Xianzhen." Jueming shouted at the top of his voice, "Uncle, what should we do? Save my fellow apprentices, save the people of Mercy City." "Amitba." Xianzhen put his palms together and lowered his eyes. His whole body shone with a golden light. The golden alms bowl in his hand hung over his head and slowly grew bigger, covering him. The black flames that were eroding his body immediately made a sizzling sound when they touched the golden alms bowl, and then disappeared without a trace. But every time a black flame was extinguished, a drop of sweat rolled down Xianzhen's forehead. "Ah, Xianzhen, you really chose to protect yourself. When you were torturing and killing us, the innocent victims of the mortal tribulation, you could still say that it was for the sake of the common people. What else do you have to say now?" "Debii Temple, there is no Debii Temple, there is only hypocrisy and selfishness. There's no mercy in Mercy City. There are only chess pieces that can be discarded and used at will. Xianzhen, I won't be able to kill you today, but I'll be waiting for you in hell. I'll wait for you to be burdened with sins and fall with me, ha." Anya-san's body was also wrapped in black flames. The flames burned more and more fiercely, slowly engulfing him completely. Old Third. He was clearly walking towards death, but there was a carefree smile on his face. This was because he could see the resentment and distrust in the eyes of the citizens of Mercy City towards Xianzhen. Once the seed of doubt was planted, it would one day burn into a raging inferno. It would burn all the hypocritical bald donkeys of Debii Temple to ashes. Anya-san slowly closed his eyes, waiting for the decaying curse to burn him to ashes. Chapter 4240. However, in the next moment, a cold hand pressed on his head. It was as if a basin of ice water had been poured over his head, which made Anya 3 shudder. At the same time, the black flame burning on his body was instantly annihilated. Anya 3 raised his head blankly and saw a handsome face that could make heaven and earth and mountains pale in comparison. His crimson eyes were emotionless, devoid of emotion or joy. His long silver hair fluttered in the wind and swept across the dirty and noisy world, as if he had put an end to all the filth. Anya 3 opened his mouth and only heard his hoarse voice after a long while. "Master, master!" Anya 7, who wanted to rush over to rescue Anya 3, also stopped and stared blankly at the man who had come down from the watchtower. Luo Yunxiao held a sword in his hand and slowly walked past Anya 3 and Anya 11. He didn't even look at them. He just stretched out his hand gently, and the decaying curse was extinguished and the Buddha's golden light was extinguished. Wherever his feet passed, the black flame retreated in fear and the decaying curse stopped automatically. It was as if he was avoiding his natural enemy. Mercy City, which had fallen into the desert of death, was restored in an instant. Fentian and the other two quivered and knelt on the ground, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. It was not fear at the moment, but the instinctive submission and awe. On the contrary, the citizens of Mercy City who had survived the struggle at the gate of Yen Luo Dian were stunned and then exclaimed when they saw Luo Yunxiao's face. How could there be such a good-looking man in the world? Just one look and they wanted to offer their souls and lives to him. Who was this man? Luo Yunxiao finally stopped in front of Xianzhen and raised his hand. The decaying curse fire, which had entangled Xianzhen, immediately retreated. However, Xianzhen, who had not shown any fear even when he was entangled by the decaying curse, retreated again and again. His face was pale and his lips were trembling. After a long time he spoke in a hoarse voice. Luo Yunxiao. You are Luo Yunxiao, the host of the mortal world tribulation who killed martial uncle Wu Che and made Bodhidharma come out of his closed-door training in advance. The one who made the real ghost bell ring and destroyed the efforts of Debi Temple for tens of thousands of years. Luo Yunxiao asked indifferently, "Where is the soul-returning lamp?" Luo Yunxiao, how dare you come to Debi Temple? With trembling hands, Xianzhen took out a talisman and threw it into the air. The talisman emitted a dazzling light and exploded above Mercy City like fireworks. This was a crisis signal to Debi Temple and his master, Master Shanhui. After sending out the signal, Xianzhen heaved a sigh of relief. Then, the man's cold and pleasant voice sounded in her ears. It seems that you don't know where the soul revival lamp is. Xianzhen gritted her teeth and said, Luo Yunxiao, don't think that you can do anything just because you've merged with the world annihilation half-soul. The voice that was trying to put up a strong front stopped abruptly. Xianzhen's eyes widened as he slowly lowered his head to look at the sword that had pierced through his heart. On the long sword, a flame that was even darker than the decaying life curse was burning. This was the purest holy flame in the world. It would not be tainted by karma, but it could almost burn everything in the world. No. No. Xianzhen screamed in fear, desperately circulating the immortal force in her body to resist the burning of the dark sacred flame. However, it was all in vain. Since you don't know where the soul revival lamp is, there's no need for you to live anymore. Chapter 42-41. This was the last sound Xianzhen heard. Cold, indifferent, emotionless. There was no hatred or hysteria in it, but it was more terrifying than the crazy hatred of the third master of the Dark Night. Was this a demon that could destroy the world? Luo Yunxiao put away the red cloud sword, one of the 12 natal swords, and turned to look at Jueming. Take me to the entrance of the boundary of Debi Temple. Otherwise I'll use the dark holy flame to burn down the entire Mercy City. Under the hidden abyss. Mu Yen doesn't know how long she has been dreaming, and she doesn't know whether the dream is good or bad. However, the moment she opened her eyes, she still remembered that the last scene in the dream was in the starry school in the cultivation land. The silver moon hung high in the sky, and the stars twinkled. Di Mingju, Xiaobao, and everyone from the Xiaoyao school are by his side. They played the zither, sang, drank wine, and danced with their swords. Their laughter filled the world, and it was like a trickle of water that brushed past her heart. But even though it was such a happy and warm scene, she couldn't stop her tears from flowing down. At that time, how could they have imagined that this life and this night would not last long, and that there would be no place to see the bright moon next year? At that time, how could they have imagined that one day the Xiaoyao school, which they had once regarded as their home, would fall apart? They had lost their master and their junior uncle. From then on, their home was still there, but they had become orphans. Junior sister, you're awake. Yun Ruhan helped her up in surprise. How are you feeling? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Mu Yen slowly reaches out to touch her cheek. She thought she would touch a wet and cold face, but there was nothing. There were no tears. She cried in her dream, but when she woke up, she couldn't even cry anymore. Eldest senior brother. She heard her hoarse and almost broken voice. I saw the engagement between me and youngest martial uncle on the 3 Lives stone. Yun Ruhan's breathing suddenly froze and her pupils shrank. He instinctively doesn't want to hear Mayan's next words. However, the girl's hoarse and trembling voice still drilled into his mind. The stone of 3 Lives has cracked, and the thread of marriage has been severed. The demonic deity said that it might be because one of the parties contracted has died. Mu Yen raised her head and looked at Yun Ruhan with hope in her eyes. Eldest senior brother, do you think junior uncle master is really dead? Is he really dead? After a pause, she gritted her teeth and said, I don't believe it. The sorrow in his eyes gradually turned into a burning flame. As long as I don't see little martial uncle's corpse, I will never believe that little martial uncle is really dead. I don't believe it either. Yun Ruhan heard her own somewhat hoarse voice. Every one of us narrowly escaped death. We almost didn't even have a complete corpse. If we could survive, how could Uncle Master die so easily when he's so powerful? His voice slowly became smoother from the difficulty it was in. He didn't know if he was trying to convince Mu Yen, or if he was trying to convince himself. Junior sister, don't worry. Isn't the enchantment banquet going to be held in the hidden abyss? When the time comes, cultivators from all over the Xiaoxing continent will gather. If junior martial uncle hears the news, he will definitely rush over. Even if little martial uncle doesn't come, Instructor Mo will come. With the help of the demonic deity and Instructor Mo, we must find little martial uncle even if we have to turn the entire Xiaoxing continent upside down. If we still can't find him, then we'll widely accept disciples. The 7 of us will go to every inch of the 3 realms and 6 paths. As long as we don't see little martial uncle's corpse, as long as we don't confirm his death, we won't give up. Chapter 42-42. The Xiaoyao sect can't afford to lose anyone. Listening to Yun Ruhan's soft and hoarse voice, Mayan feels that her heart, which has been gripped tightly by something, finally gets a chance to breathe. Her dry eyes are wet and hot and something flows down. She looks at Yun Ruhan's eyes and nods. Okay, let's go find him. Even if we have to turn the whole world upside down, we must find little martial uncle. Yun Ruhan sees the tears in her eyes and sighs in relief. He gets up and says, the demon lord has been waiting for you outside for several days. Every day he would use his devil chi to heal you and then leave in a hurry. Little martial sister, do you want to see him? Mayan is startled and after a while she says, how many days have I been asleep? It's been 7 days. Yun Ruhan says, the Tianmei banquet will start in 3 days, and the boundary of the hidden abyss will open in 3 days. So, Di Mingju should be coming soon? Mayan's heart suddenly raises an urgent desire. She wants to see Di Mingju, she wants to see Xiaobao, she misses them like crazy. She gets up and says, I'm going to see the demon lord. However, before she gets out of bed, a figure appears in the room. The demon lord says coldly, if you need anything, you can tell me. Although his attitude is arrogant and cold, his eyes are full of concern and worry, which betrays the demon lord. Mayan remembers that when she was unconscious in front of the 3-life stone, this silly father completely lost control. She can't help but soften her brows. Did you eavesdrop on what I said to Big Brother just now? The demon lord purses his lips and doesn't speak. He is a dignified demon lord, how can he say that he eavesdrops? And eavesdropping on his daughter? He definitely can't admit it. Can you give me a copy of the list of the Tianmei banquet? His daughter doesn't ask any more questions, which makes Jun Shitian feel relieved. With a cold face he concisely says, yes. But he secretly sends a message to the attendants outside, telling them to prepare the detailed list of the Tianmei banquet. After giving the order, Jun Shitian says, I will send someone to investigate Luo Yunxiao's whereabouts. Whether she is dead or alive, I will find her. I don't need the polar domain's help. Mayan coughs lightly. How did Di Mingju offend you? How did he offend him? Speaking of this, Jun Shitian felt like gnashing his teeth. He knew the whereabouts of his precious daughter but refused to tell him. His precious daughter is clearly still so young, but she has already given birth to a child with Di Mingju. In other words, his family's precious daughter has already been snatched away by this beast, Di Mingju. Now you're asking me how I offended him. If Di Mingju were in front of him right now, Jun Shirtai would really want to tear him to pieces. Of course, the premise was that he could beat them. Jun Shirtian took a deep breath. Don't worry, I won't lower myself to his level. However, there are millions and millions of good men in the world. Yin, you don't need to hang yourself on him. Mu Yen, how dare you say you didn't offend him? You still dare to say that you don't have any special knowledge? While they were talking, they heard Xue Jiayi's excited voice from outside the house. Your Highness, I heard that you're awake. Can I come in? Come in. Your Highness, quickly come and take a look at the Tianmei banquet dress that this subordinate has prepared for you. I guarantee that after you wear it, those little whores of spirit cultivators will all feel ashamed of their inferiority, and those men will all prostrate themselves under your skirt, ha. Chapter 42-43. As a fragrant wind blew into the room, Shueji ran in excitedly with something in her hand. But before she could show Mu Yen what she was holding, she saw the demon lord looking at her with a sullen face. Shueji shrunk her neck and immediately knelt down. "Greetings, demon lord. What's that in your hand?" Shueji glanced at Jun Shirtian and said cautiously, This is a dress I found in your private storage. It's called the Immortal Phoenix Dress. It's the only dress that can reach the level of a holy object in our palace's treasure vault. The key is that this dress is so beautiful. Ordinary women can only be overshadowed by the light of this dress, but it's different for the princess. Princess is devastatingly beautiful. If you wear this Immortal Phoenix Dress, you will definitely be the most beautiful woman in the world, and all the human spirit cultivators will be infatuated with you. Ah. At that time, we will let them know that not only does our demon race's princess have heaven-defying strength, even her beauty can crush those 4 great beauties. Even though one of the 4 great beauties was the Black Lotus Saintess of the demon race. But now Shueji didn't hesitate to say that they were worse than bullshit. When Jun Shirtian heard about the Immortal Phoenix Dress, he was in a trance for a moment. His fingers subconsciously touched the blood-patterned bell on his neck. He still remembered that he had obtained this Immortal Phoenix Dress by accident. He should have been disdainful of women's clothing, but he didn't know why he kept it. Moreover, in his dream that night, he saw a woman wearing the gilded Immortal Phoenix Dress with her back facing him. Just by looking at her back he felt his heart beat like a drum. An indescribable sorrow emerged from the bottom of his heart. But when he wanted to go forward and see the woman's face, he woke up from the dream. After waking up from the dream, the aching and throbbing feeling disappeared, but he kept the gilded Immortal Phoenix Dress. Jun Shirtian now knew why he left behind the Immortal Phoenix Dress. Because he subconsciously felt that this dress was very suitable for Ning Yanxin. But now Ning Yanxin would never have the chance to wear it again. Shueji saw that Jun Shirtian didn't speak for a long time, so her voice became weak. "Demon Lord, did I do something wrong? This dress can't be taken out casually?" Jun Shirtian came back to his senses and said coldly, "No, give the Immortal Phoenix Dress to the princess." "Yes." Hearing that, Shueji immediately stood up from the ground excitedly and handed the storage ring with the gilt Immortal Phoenix Dress in it to Mu Yen. "Princess, this is a very powerful magical item. After wearing it, it can increase your defense and speed. It can also increase the speed at which you circulate and absorb demonic chi. Quickly put her on for me to see. It's very easy to wear this dress. As long as you establish a connection with the Immortal Phoenix Dress with your divine sense and you have enough strength, the dress will automatically be put on your body." Mu Yen reached out and took the ring. Her divine sense probed inside and sure enough she saw an extremely beautiful red dress. It was like a wedding dress. Mayan rarely wears such a gorgeous color. Her clothes are usually either white or cyan, and she hardly wears any jewelry on her body. But at this moment, looking at the gilded Immortal Phoenix Dress in his sea of consciousness, he couldn't help but be amazed. "Princess, quickly put it on for me to see." Mu Yen smiled and shook her head. She handed the storage ring back to Shueji. "I don't plan to wear women's clothes at the enchantment banquet." Chapter 42-44. Shueji's eyes widened, but she didn't have time to ask. He listens to her unhurriedly say, "I'm not the demon race's Princess Jun Mayan, but the candidate for the princess son-in-law Yi Liangshan." The snow girl opened her mouth and couldn't say a word for a long time. "Princess, what are you doing?" Mu Yen looks at Jun Shirtian. "I'm sorry, I know I'm very headstrong, but everyone in the world knew the purpose of the demon race holding the heavenly enchantment banquet. That was to help Her Royal Highness find a husband. If the princess didn't appear at the heavenly enchantment banquet, the demon race would definitely lose their reputation and face, and wouldn't be able to raise their heads in front of the human spirit cultivators. Mayan does not intend to let the demon race fall into such a dilemma. But she still doesn't want to reveal her identity as Jun Mayan. Therefore, during the heavenly enchantment banquet, she would put on a veil and appear for a while. It could also be considered as an explanation to the people who participated in the heavenly enchantment banquet. But before she could finish, she heard Jun Shirtian wave his hand without hesitation. "It doesn't matter, face is nothing as long as Yen Yen is happy." Shueji had already filled in the gaps in her imagination while she was still in shock. The expression on her face had already changed from shock and disappointment to excitement. What's the big deal about the human tribe spirit cultivators being dissatisfied? If they have the ability they can come and fight with us, the devil tribe. Do they think that we're afraid of them? Hee hee hee. Princess, you are so smart. You will attend the enchantment banquet as Yi Liangchen. If all the men in the enchantment banquet are bad guys and you don't like any of them, you can just marry Yi Liangchen. By then, no one will be able to say anything. Ha ha ha. Mu Yen, I'm sorry, I don't have such thoughts about marrying myself. Why did he join the enchantment banquet as Yi Liangchen? Of course, it's because she heard that Di Mingju is participating in the heavenly enchantment banquet, so anger rushed to her brain. He directly swore that whoever backed out of the matchmaking contest was a dog. She didn't want to be a dog, so she decided to continue participating. Mu Yen smiled and handed the immortal phoenix dress back to Shuejiai. However, Jun Shitian suddenly said, "You should keep it. Only you are qualified to wear this robe." Mu Yen stares blankly, suddenly understanding something. Her eyes flickered, but she still took the clothes in the end. However, she didn't know if her divine sense had touched the immortal phoenix dress in the storage ring. Mu Yen suddenly felt a flash of light in front of her, and then her clothes changed color. Heavens! Shuejiai gasped. What did I just see? Jun Shitian also blankly stared at the red dress in front of him. His eyes gradually lost focus and his vision became blurry. He suddenly clenched the blood pattern bell in front of his chest, as a suffocating pain came from his heart. Yenxing Ning Yenxing. How many years had he missed? How much time and true love had he missed? Now, even their daughter was slim and graceful, wearing the gilt fairy phoenix dress. It was as if she had put on a wedding dress and would leave him at any time. Jun Shitian suddenly turned around, hiding the heat in his eyes so that no one could see it. The hoarse voice sounded hurriedly, "I still have something to take care of, so I'll go back first." Before he reached the door, the girl's slightly hoarse voice came from behind him. Thank you for tolerating my willfulness, protecting me, caring for me and doing everything for me bit by bit." Chapter 42-45. Mu Yen gently caressed the soft cloth on her body. A distant and illusory picture appeared in her mind. The hand that the man used to hold a sword was holding a needle and thread. He was clumsily and carefully sewing the baby's clothes. After a few times, his movements became smooth and skillful. The small clothes slowly took shape in his hand. The man raised his head and showed a proud smile to the gentle woman not far from him. He waved the clothes in his hand. That smile was silly, totally different from that of the high and mighty demon lord. It carried the pride and gentleness that no father in the world could have. Mu Yen felt that her heart suddenly became soft. The resentment and hatred in her heart turned into burning feelings at this moment. She heard herself say in a low and hoarse voice, "Thank you, Father. Thank you for everything you did for me." Bang! A loud noise came from outside the door. Shueji subconsciously raised her head to look, and then the expression on her face gradually froze. What did she just see? Their great arrogant, supreme demon lord had fallen? Was it an illusion? It must be an illusion, right? On the roof of the high palace, Yun Ruhan was sitting on it. He was drinking wine and overlooking the entire demon imperial city. As the eldest disciple of the Xiaoyao school, he had always been calm, steady, and self-restrained. He wanted to teach the younger disciples not to cause too much trouble. Otherwise they would be the target of public criticism and get hurt. From the moment his master died, he told himself that he wanted to be the guardian of the Xiaoyao school. He wanted to protect the Xiaoyao school from losing anyone. He needed to get stronger, to be tough, to be able to protect the carefree society, and to be the support of his junior brothers and sisters. He couldn't cry even if he was in pain. He couldn't show even if he was afraid or sad. He couldn't give up even if he was desperate. Otherwise, what should he do with the younger sister who was already in pain? Otherwise, how could he comfort the other disciples when the Xiaoyao school gathered together? However, no one knew that Yun Ruhan could also feel pain and sadness. The cold night would be wrapped in despair. Young martial uncle. That was the young martial uncle who had been with the Xiaoyao school for dozens of years. Even though he seemed indifferent, he actually saved them again and again and taught them to grow up little by little. Their master was dead. If even the young martial uncle left them, Yun Ruhan suddenly raised her head, wanting to finish the wine in the gourd in one gulp. However, halfway through, a small hand snatched away the wine jug. Yun Ruhan turned her head in surprise to see a girl who looked no more than 15 or 16 years old holding a flask of wine and gulping it down in one gulp. Delicious. Good wine. It's been a long time since I've had such a strong wine. Yun Ruhan couldn't react to the girl's soft voice, but the words she said were extremely vulgar. Yu Ruo turned to look at him. Why are you looking at me? Can't bear to part with your wine? She turned over the wine pot in her hand and revealed a sly smile. It's useless even if you don't want to. I've already drunk it all. The girl's cheeks were flushed and her almond-shaped eyes looked as if they had been washed, clean and hazy. Yun Ruhan snapped out of her sorrowful state and whispered, Lord Yu, why are you here? What lord? Do I look old? Yu Ruo glared at him. Besides, if you're here, why can't I be here? You still have wine? Give it to me. Chapter 42-46. The young girl saw the other 2 jugs of wine behind Yun Ruhan and immediately pounced over excitedly. Before Yun Ruhan could react, she had already opened the jug and started drinking. Delicious burp, this feels so good. Smelly old chi, he won't even let me drink. I'm going to drink. I'm going to piss him off. Yun Ruhan, give me the wine. Do you hear me? All the wine is mine. Yun Ruhan looked at the young girl who was trying to snatch the wine from him, only to stumble and fall into his arms. Yun Ruhan then realized something. Lady Yue, you're drunk. Lady, what lady? I told you not to call me lady, you're making me sound old. Yun Ruhan pursed his lips and said softly, Yue, you're drunk. Wrong. Yue raised a white, tender finger. I'm a demoness, I won't get drunk even if you're drunk, understand? Hey Yun Ruhan, stop swaying, I can't even see you clearly. Yun Ruhan felt 2 small hands grabbing at his face as if trying to fix it. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hadn't expected the dignified captain of the Blood Demon Guards to act like this when she was drunk. Stop. You're obedient now? Stop swaying if you do. A warm softness pressed against the corner of his lips, causing Yun Ruhan to freeze and almost stop breathing. If you do, I won't be able to kiss you. The young girl looked at him with hazy eyes, her bright red lips slightly curled up. Under the moonlight, she looked both cute and sexy, causing Yun Ruhan's mouth to go dry. After a long while, he finally found his voice. Yue, what are you doing? Kissing you, the drunken lowly demoness said confidently. Why, kiss me? Because you're my magical pet, I won't allow you to be sad. If you're sad, I'll kiss you. Yun Ruhan opened his mouth. How do you know? I'm sad? But Yue was so drunk that she didn't seem to hear him at all. She cupped Yun Ruhan's face and said softly, Yun Ruhan, don't be sad, okay? When I see you sad here is especially painful, especially sore. I don't like this feeling. I'll kiss you, you don't have to be sad. As she spoke, Yu swayed and pressed her lips against Yun Ruhan's again. But this time the bump was even more inaccurate. He didn't even kiss the corner of his lips, only his face. You're so annoying. I told you not to move. You stop, don't sway or else I won't be able to kiss you. Be good. Yun Ruhan took a deep breath, her eyes unfathomable. He heard himself saying in a hoarse voice, Yu, if you can't kiss me, how about I kiss you instead? Yu blinked her watery eyes as she pondered over the meaning of this sentence. His entire body was pulled over. Then all his breathing was completely swallowed by the rich and scorching aura. The warm morning sun fell on her face. Yu frowned uncomfortably and opened her eyes. What he saw was a vast expanse of blue sky, white clouds and dazzling sunlight. The tip of his nose was still filled with the smell of alcohol, as well as a strange yet familiar scent. Yu pressed his hand against his head and sat up. What happened? Why was she sleeping here? Was this the roof of the demon palace? A cool feeling suddenly fell on her forehead, and someone stuffed a pill into her mouth. Chapter 42-47. Yu was still a bit slow from the hangover, and she swallowed the pill without any vigilance. The tip of her tongue even touched the warm fingertips. The fingertips on her lips didn't move away, but continued to press against her lips ambiguously. Only then did Yu realize that Yun Ruhan was right in front of her. You? She wanted to ask, why are you here? However, the memory from last night slowly came back to her. Yu remembered seeing the figure on the roof outside the palace. It was so far away and there was even a barrier between them, but she recognized it at a glance. It was her magical pet, Yun Ruhan. The palace was incomparably noble, and any demon who dared to go up to the roof would definitely be killed by the demon blood guards. But Yun Ruhan didn't know any of this, and the demon blood guards didn't dare order him around because of his relationship with the princess. But at the same time, no one dared to approach him. That lonely figure looked so lonely and forlorn. By the time Yu reacted, she was already on the roof of the palace, snatching the wine from the man's hand and downing it. Yu would be punished for disrespecting the palace, and you'd get drunk just by touching the wine. Yu only knew that she didn't want to see the man drink wine, but it was as if he was drinking tears, swallowing the pain and despair in his heart. She also didn't want to see her familiar always wrapping himself up tightly, being dignified and steady, but always having to endure and restrain himself. That would be too tiring and painful. Even her heart began to ache along with it. She wanted her magical pet to laugh from the bottom of his heart. Then she got drunk. What happened next? Yu opened her mouth. Did I do anything after I got drunk last night? Yun Ruhan found it funny, but she didn't show it on her face. If you did, will you take responsibility? What, responsibility? And who allowed you to call me Yu? Call me Lady Yu. Yun Ruhan grunted softly. But you said last night that Lady Yu made you sound old, and you wanted me to call you Yu. Yu? Did she really say that? It seemed like she really did think that way, and that was why she said it after getting drunk. After a long while, Yu asked guiltily, "What else did I say?" "You didn't say anything." Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Ruhan continued, "But he did it." "What did I do?" As soon as Yu's voice fell, the man's hand pressed down on her back and his warm lips pressed against hers. As their breaths intertwined with each other, it was as if the world had become long and lingering at this moment. By the time Yun Ruhan released her, Yu's mind was blank, and her face was so red that it looked like it was about to burn. She raised her head and glared at Yun Ruhan. "You, what are you doing?" Yun Ruhan's chest heaved up and down, her eyes deep and unfathomable. Her voice was soft and hoarse. "You do what you did to me last night." Boom. Yu felt that her face was burning. Did she really kiss Yun Ruhan last night? No, a kiss was a kiss. This was her magical pet in the first place, the man she liked. But why did Yun Ruhan kiss her? Yu suddenly reacted. She grabbed Yun Ruhan's collar and pulled her over. "Why did you kiss me?" Yun Ruhan whispered, "I'll kiss you the same way you kiss me." Chapter 42-48. Due to unknown reasons we can't be found on Sogu today. Please remember our domain name, Book C Pavilion, and find your way home. Yu felt her heart pounding in her ears as if it was about to jump out. She licked her lips. "I want you to be my man. If you kiss me, does that mean you agree?" Yun Ruhan didn't expect Yu to be so direct. His face seemed to be burning, but he still looked straight into her eyes and said softly, "Yu, are you willing to be the sister-in-law of the Xiaoyao sect?" Yu released him. "I know the rules of the Xiaoyao sect. If I want to marry you, I must marry into the Xiaoyao sect. What's the big deal about marrying into our family?" Yun Ruhan coughed slightly. "Yu, only a man can marry into the Xiaoyao sect. What about me? I'm the sister-in-law. If I say I'm going to marry into the Xiaoyao sect, who dares to say anything? I'm the captain of the Demon Blood Guards. Lady Yu, you should be happy that I'm willing to marry into the Xiaoyao sect." The young girl used her tender white finger to point at his chest and said ruthless words, but her voice was soft and squeaky. Yun Ruhan couldn't help smiling. The pain and sadness of last night seemed to dissipate a lot at this moment. "Yu, thank you for being with me at this time." Yu had completely entered the role of the sister-in-law. "How many people are there in the Xiaoyao sect?" "I'm the sister-in-law, so I'm the leader. I can discipline the junior brothers and sisters for you. Oh, and those male cultivators who marry into the Xiaoyao sect. I can discipline everyone except the princess, right? I'm the sister-in-law. If I tell them to go east, they have to go east. If I tell them to go west, they have to be obedient." Yun Ruhan. She thought about Instructor Mo, who was the emperor of the polar domain. She thought about Master Jinyuan, whose cultivation was so high that she couldn't see him clearly. The difficulty of disciplining them and making them listen obediently seemed to be. Yun Ruhan looked at the excited Yu. "Forget it, let this girl be excited for a while. Let's not break her dream." After Mu Yen woke up, she rested for half a day before asking someone to call the old man. Seeing the old man kneeling in front of her, Mu Yen went straight to the point. "If I remember correctly, you said in the priest hall that your name is Zhongli. I want to know what's going on. Why do you have the same name as the demon emperor's priest?" The old man slowly raised his head and looked at Mu Yen without blinking. He said in a hoarse voice, "Your Highness, if I say that I am the real demon emperor's priest, will you believe me?" The old man's eyes were muddy and old. Deep and numerous wrinkles could be seen around his eyes. His entire body seemed to be empty, and his body unconsciously bent over. If the old man were to stand next to Zhongli of the priest hall, 9.5 out of 10 people would be convinced that the seemingly weak but mysterious man of the priest hall was the real demon emperor's priest. However, when Mu Yen looks into the old man's eyes, she almost instantly believes his words. Because this pair of turbid eyes filled with grief, despair and pain would not lie. Because when the old man asked this question, the sound of his heartbeat and the change in his aura would not lie. Of course, the most important thing was that the old man had signed the demon god curse with her, so he could not deceive her in any way. Mu Yen nodded and said, "I believe you." These 4 simple words caused the old man's eyes to turn red. Tears welled up in his eyes. He quickly bowed his head and rubbed away in embarrassment. Chapter 42-49. Mu Yen asked, "Get up, sit down and tell me slowly. What happened? Since you are the demon emperor's priest, why did you become like this today? What's the relationship between you and that Zhongli of the priest hall?" The old man closed his eyes, and his heaving chest slowly calmed down. He stood up according to Mu Yan's words and casually found a seat to sit down. After careful observation, Mu Yan found that the old man's bearing was indeed different from that of ordinary beggars. It was just that when he was in Cloud City, he deliberately concealed all of this. His mouth was particularly poisonous, so people ignored these characteristics. The one in the priest hall, he was not originally called Zhongli. His name was Wenjie. He used to be my only personal disciple, the holy son of the priest hall, and the candidate for the next demon emperor's priest. I dedicated my whole life to the demon god. Because I foresaw the mandate of heaven, I was destined to have no wife, no children, no blood relatives in this life. So I treated Wenjie as my own son. However, in a great battle 1,000 years ago, Wenjie and I were seriously injured. Wenjie's life was at stake. Regardless of the fact that my injury might worsen, I transferred a part of my demon soul to him and passed out. When he said this, the old man's hands were clenched tightly, and his voice was tainted with a trace of deep-rooted hatred. I managed to save his life with great difficulty, but when I woke up, I found that my appearance had changed, my magic core was damaged and could not be restored, and my cultivation was gone. And standing in front of me was Zhongli, who had exactly the same appearance as me. Although his voice had changed as soon as he opened his mouth, I knew that it was Wenjie, the disciple I treated like my own son, and even sacrificed my lifespan for him. With the same face as me, he pointed at me and told his subordinates that I was a thief who wanted to sneak into the priest hall to steal things, and asked them to throw me into the main city of 1 star. At that time, I really wanted to jump up and ask him why he did this to me, but I knew I couldn't. Wenjie doesn't know that I'm awake. Otherwise, even if he doesn't kill me immediately, he would surely think of other ways to shackle and torture me. Then I was thrown into the 1-star main city, Ashbone City. At that time, I had not completely given up hope. I thought that as long as I could find a way to return to the Demon Imperial City and see my good friend Min Wei, I would be able to expose Wenjie's true colors. But soon I found out that there were people monitoring me in Ashbone City. There were several times when I met a powerful alchemist and asked for help. However, in a blink of an eye, that alchemist would be killed and I would be beaten up. I wouldn't be able to get up for 10 days or half a month. A look of pain and despair appeared on the old man's face. His crooked body almost wanted to curl up. His hands clasped the edge of the chair and trembled violently. His knuckles turned pale. Those days were filled with darkness, despair, pain, and torture. They were endless. Every time he thought he still had a trace of hope, Wenjie would fiercely shatter this trace of hope and stomp him into the muddy abyss. This person didn't even stand in front of him to humiliate him, but he made his life sink into hell, consigned to eternal damnation. Mu Yen suddenly took out the Tian Mo Qin and gently plucked the strings with her fingers. The melodious sound of the Qin was like a gurgling stream brushing past the old man's heart, slowly calming down the hatred and madness that filled his heart. Chapter 42-50. Under the soothing sound of the zither, the old man's expression returned to normal, and then he continued, "Gradually, I knew that Wenjie would never give me a chance to make a comeback. But I don't know why he also refused to let me die. Many times, when the devil energy in my body had dissipated and the wounds on my body were festering and I was begging for death, his people would appear again and hang on to my rotten life." Mu Yen slightly frowned, showing a thoughtful expression. The old man said, "This situation lasted for hundreds of years. I couldn't die, but I couldn't live either. I just lived like a walking corpse in the Ashbone City. Then suddenly one day the person Wenjie arranged to be around me disappeared. It seemed that he didn't need to care about whether I was alive or dead. Or, to him, I was like an ant, as insignificant as garbage. I slowly struggled from the 1-star Ashbone City to the 2-star Main City, and then to the 3-star Cloud City. Although I was stepped into hell again and again, I still had hope. As long as I could enter the Demon Imperial City, as long as I could see the Demon Venerable or Elder Min Wei, maybe I could make a comeback and take back everything that belonged to me. But all my hope turned into despair after I heard that the Demon Venerable had changed owners. 1,000 years ago, Jun Shirtian was accidentally framed by his brother and was cursed by the lovesickness demon curse. Elder Min Wei and several trusted subordinates seemed to have rescued Jun Shirtian. The demon imperial priest Zhong Li proposed that to solve the lovesickness demon curse, one had to take 1 soul and 3 spirits and experience hundreds of tribulations. Nearly 1,000 years later, the demon venerable fell into a deep sleep. Elder Min Wei, Tianhe, Devil Blade, Snow Girl, Wine Boy, and the demon imperial priest Zhong Li all remained dormant. Those who stayed in the Demon Imperial City were all people that the old man didn't know. Even if he entered the Demon Imperial City, what could he do? Who would believe the words of a useless demon soldier? Moreover, he didn't even know where Wenjie was now. The old man showed a bitter smile and said in a deep voice, "I was muddle-headed for another 100 years. The demon venerable returned, unified the hidden abyss, and all the demons surrendered to him." Everyone knew that the demon venerable's second in command was the high priest Zhong Li, who solved the lovesickness demon curse and saved the demon venerable's life. What's a piece of trash like me? Even if I really crawl back to the Demon Imperial City, who would believe me? I thought that my life would be like this. Maybe one day I would die in a corner and no one would know, no one would remember. The first half of my life was like a dream. Other than that wretched disciple Wenjie, no one would know. However, never would I have imagined that there would be life at the end of the world. How could I have imagined that I would encounter your highness in Cloud City? Mu Yin was puzzled. I remember that when you first saw me you were very rude to me. At that time you probably didn't recognize me. But later they said that you had been waiting outside the inn. Moreover, the immortal slaying city had obviously sealed off the information about my identity, but you called me your highness the moment you saw me. The old man's face revealed a trace of embarrassment, and then he said gratefully, "It's the bag of magic pills that the princess left me which allowed my magic core to recover a little. I used this 9 Devils Heaven-defying bead to divine your identity." Mu Yin stares blankly, her face revealing a puzzled expression. The old man seemed to have seen through her doubts. With a wave of his hand, a sparkling and translucent crystal ball appeared in his palm. Chapter 42-51. He stared blankly at the crystal ball in his palm, his expression a little dazed. "Your Royal Highness was once a spirit cultivator, so you should know very well that the sword cultivator among the spirit cultivators can condense the sword heart when their domain is upgraded to a certain level, and only with the sword heart can they condense a life sword. Our demon race also has the concept of life treasure, but I am a priest and fighting is not my vocation. So when my domain reached the level where I could refine a life treasure, I did not choose a powerful holy object, but refined the 9 Demons Heaven-defying bead, which was used for divination and had accompanied me for countless years into my life treasure. But as my cultivation rose, the 9 Demons Heaven-defying bead could no longer provide me with enough help, so when I was in the priest hall, I usually did not take out the 9 Demons Heaven-defying bead. So Wenjie did not know that I had a life treasure on me, and when he sent me away, he naturally did not think of cutting out the 9 Demons Heaven-defying bead in my body." The old man revealed a sad and bitter smile. The pain of cutting out a life treasure was unbearable for both humans and demons. However, the old man was very certain that if Wenjie, this disciple that he had raised with his own hands, knew of the existence of the natal magic treasure, he would definitely not hesitate to push him into hell and make him suffer the pain of burning his heart and eroding his bones. In the end, it was because he did not know people well. He had never thought of guarding against this disciple. So that in the end, his cultivation was destroyed, his identity was robbed, and he lived a life that was neither human nor ghost. If he had not taken out the 9 Demons Heaven-defying bead, so that Wenjie did not know about the existence of the 9 Demons Heaven-defying bead, he would not even have the last glimmer of life. However, as his body became weaker and weaker, the magic core was eroded little by little, and the domain that had reached the 6th stage gradually deteriorated. In the end, the life treasure, 9 Demons Heaven-defying bead, could no longer be taken back into the body, and became an ordinary magic treasure. And from then on he completely gave up the hope of regaining his identity. However, this glimmer of life eventually brought him hope, allowing him to divine the identity of Her Royal Highness. It also allowed him to once again set foot in the demon imperial city, and saw that evil disciple who deceived his master and destroyed his ancestors. After listening to the old man's narration, Mu Yen also came back to her senses for a long time. He didn't expect such a thing to happen in this world. A person could disguise himself as another person, but how could he disguise himself as another person for a long time without being exposed? His actions, habits, strength, there were flaws in every aspect. The old man had also mentioned that he and Elder Minwei had been good friends back in the Demon Palace. Since that was the case, how could Elder Minwei not have noticed it after so many years? Was there really someone in the world who could impersonate another person for 1,000 years without revealing any flaws? Suddenly, something flashed through Mu Yan's mind, and his expression became slightly serious. No, there was still something in the world that could allow a person to perfectly impersonate another person. Magnificent quicksand. She recalled the time when Lung Qingwan pretended to be her. Although there were many flaws, it was true that the face did not have any traces of disguise or magic to change its appearance. But it was truly very similar to her. Third senior brother had once said that the magnificent quicksand was a very special and treacherous medicine. In fact, it could not even be called a medicine anymore. It was a kind of luck-snatching curse. Chapter 4252. If the wind quicksand is perfectly refined, not only can it have the same appearance as the one who is under the spell, it can even snatch the other party's luck. And once the luck is snatched, the person who takes the wind quicksand will slowly possess the other party's talent, strength, and even their living habits. They can imitate them perfectly. Third senior brother once said that the effect of the wind quicksand was not good after Lung Qingwan took it. Apart from the imperfection of the drug, the most important thing was that Mu Yan's own luck was strong enough. And the wind quicksand is very interesting in this aspect. If the snatcher's luck is stronger than the one being snatched, then the one being snatched will be stripped of everything bit by bit, until he is completely abandoned by the world. But if it is the other way around and the one being snatched has a stronger luck than the snatcher, then the person who takes the wind quicksand will unknowingly lose his luck, and eventually become more and more unfortunate. Mu Yen slightly narrows her eyes and looks at the old man. Have you heard of the wind quicksand? The old man or Zhongli slightly frowns, revealing an expression of deep thought. The name is somewhat familiar, but at this moment he can't remember where he had heard it. Mu Yen roughly explains the origin, effect, and refining method of the wind quicksand that she knows. Zhongli's eyes suddenly widen, and his body trembles violently. His eyes burst forth with shock, understanding, resentment, and pain. So that's how it is, so that's how it is. That traitorous disciple had too many opportunities to take my blood, my hair, and my personal belongings. He had been preparing for this a long time ago. He was just waiting for me to be heavily injured on the battlefield and my luck to weaken. Then he would consume the magnificent quicksand. Ha, ha, ha. But why didn't he think about why I was seriously injured? Why did my luck weaken? I did it to save his life. Mu Yen lightly says, perhaps he was seriously injured in order to trick you into saving him. Zhong Li's pupils suddenly contract, and his hands tightly clench into fists. The joints of his whole body make cracking sounds. Obviously, he is extremely angry and also extremely hateful. Your Royal Highness. Zhong Li slowly kneels before Mu Yen. Please forgive me, Your Royal Highness. You saved this old servant, but I only cared about my personal grudge, and I may even bring danger to you. But if I'm unable to kill that rascal, Wenjie, if I'm unable to seize back the name and identity that belongs to me, then I'm truly unwilling. Princess, please allow me to take revenge. Mu Yen raises her hand to let him get up and says in a low voice, this matter is perhaps no longer just a grudge between you and Wenjie. This person gave up his name and identity and lurked in the demon clan for thousands of years. Even your good friend Elder Minwei didn't notice him. He even accompanied the demon lord, my father, through the most difficult, lovesickness demon love curse. Do you think he just wants to be a demon emperor's priest? Zhongli suddenly looked up. Princess, what do you mean? Mayan slightly curled her fingers and tapped the edge of the armrest. She said in a low voice, don't tell anyone that you're Zhongli. During this period of time, I will think of a way to repair the devil core in your body and restore your strength. The corners of her mouth slowly curled up. Isn't it just snatching luck? Let's see whose luck is stronger. If she still wasn't enough, Di Mingju would come to the heavenly enchantment banquet, and Xiao Bao should be by his side. Chapter 4253. Muyan's finger gently rotates the void spirit ring that others can't see, the longing in her heart overflowing like a tide. Xiaobao, Di Mingju, our family will be reunited soon, won't we? Time flies and soon it's the day of the Heavenly Charm Banquet. At this time, countless spirit cultivators have already gathered above the hidden abyss. During the sky collapse disaster, the hidden abyss was full of devastation due to the ravages of the nightmare ghosts. But after more than a year, it's already green and colorful, looking brand new. The demons didn't prepare any palace to rest in the hidden abyss. And it turns out that they don't need it. Those invited to the Heavenly Charm Banquet this time, even the third-rate clans have a few spatial magic treasures that can transform into temporary houses, courtyards, and palaces. And even the really poor Si Qing's tribe is attached to a first-rate or second-rate sect like the Yin and Yang school, so they will have a place to stay. According to the invitation letter of the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet, the submerged abyss barrier would automatically open at noon. At that time these people will be able to enter the hidden abyss. These demons are too arrogant. Who do we think we are, to actually let us wait here like this? Han Weijiang was so angry that he paced around in the palace that had been transformed from the mustard seed. In order not to miss the Heavenly Charm Banquet, the Han family set out early. But after arriving here, they weren't allowed to enter the hidden abyss, and could only wait in this damned place. What good thing does the demons think their princess is? A delicious piece of cake? That everyone wants her? Bah, she's just a fickle woman, a slut. Who do you think you are, brother? She should be happy that you're willing to marry her. Han Jiaming, who has been meditating at the side, slowly opens his eyes and says in a low voice, Weijiang, be careful with your words. Don't forget that this is the territory of the demons, and the demons are famous for being protective. If you don't want our Han family to be unable to leave the hidden abyss alive, then you can talk nonsense at the Heavenly Charm Banquet. Han Weijiang's face changes. He grits his teeth and says angrily, I'm going to take a stroll outside. Qin Jiaming, what are you doing? Hurry and follow me. Han Jiaming looks at his younger brother's back as he walks out of the hall. A dark light flashes in his eyes, and the corner of his mouth hooks up in a mocking arc. Han Weijiang walked out of the palace with a belly full of anger. The area above the hidden abyss was actually very large. However, there were simply too many sects and clans participating in the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet. Although the families had separated themselves from each other, they did not interfere with each other. But when Han Weijiang looked around, he could still see many disciples of various sects and families walking back and forth in front of his Sumeru mustard seed building. Han Weijiang really wanted to find someone to vent his anger on, but the Han family had already declined. As for those who could attend the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet, they were all people that he couldn't afford to offend. Han Weijiang spat fiercely, kicked the stone under his feet, and was about to walk back resentfully. Suddenly he saw two lonely people from the corner of his eye. The other was a sword cultivator who was dressed in tattered clothes and covered in dust. He seemed to be a peak golden immortal. On the other hand, the other one was sitting in a wheelchair. At first glance, he seemed to be in his 20s, and his cultivation base did not even seem to have reached the golden immortal realm. He was just worrying about not having a punching bag to vent his anger on. Wasn't it delivered right to his doorstep? Han Weijiang waved his hand at his subordinates and swaggered toward the two people beside the hidden abyss. Chapter 4254. He did not notice that Qin Jiu, who had been standing behind him like a puppet, when she saw the young man in the wheelchair, her eyes suddenly lit up. Hey, which sect are you from? What are you doing in hidden abyss? Hearing the arrogant voice coming from behind, Yu Zhengqing came back to his senses. Seeing Han Weijiang, he frowned slightly. He did not want to talk to him. He also did not want to have a conflict with him. So he supported Chu Imo Li's wheelchair and prepared to leave. Did I say you can leave now? Han Weijiang lifted his leg and pressed down on the wheel of the wheelchair. Suddenly he raised his hand and took out a jade card from Yu Zhengqing's bosom. Haha, did I see it wrong? Thunder Ray Sect, Yu Zhengqing. Which corner of the world did this small sect come from? You actually have the nerve to participate in the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet? Don't tell me a cripple like you also wants to marry the demon princess? Yu Zhengqing angrily stepped forward to take the jade card. Give me back the invitation card. At the moment when Yu Zhengqing rushed over, Han Weijiang's face showed an arrogant smile. He dodged Yu Zhengqing's attack. Then he raised his hand and easily grabbed Yu Zhengqing's neck, fiercely threw him to the ground and then stepped on him. A puny golden immortal dares to be arrogant in front of me, second young Master Han, who do you think you are? The people behind Han Weijiang saw their young master humiliate this sword cultivator, but no one came out to uphold justice. They immediately understood, this sword cultivator is either a rogue cultivator or Thunder Ray sect is just a small sect, no one can come out to support him. The Han servants who were originally ordered by Han Jiaming to stop Han Weijiang from causing trouble, immediately became arrogant. A golden immortal, a cripple also wants to marry the demon princess. It is simply a toad lusting after swan meat, haha. It just so happens that the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet is also about martial arts. Second young master will teach them a good lesson, let them know the immensity of heaven and earth, haha. Yu Jingqing was stepped on by Han Weijiang, his ears were filled with the laughter of the crowd, humiliating words. His eyes were bloodshot, and his teeth were almost bleeding from clenching. This is the price of being weak. Anyone could trample on it wantonly. Was it the same for the Thunder Ray sect in Yen Yen? They clearly did nothing wrong, but their whole sect was massacred, and Yen Yen was cooked alive and turned into a medicinal catalyst? If he was strong enough, he would be able to kill all the people who had humiliated and harmed him. He would return the pain their patriarch had inflicted on him 10 times, 100 times over. Han Weijiang fiercely stepped on Yu Jingqing's foot again, until Yu Jingqing spat out a mouthful of blood. Only then did the anger in his chest dissipate a little. But it was still not enough. He turned his gaze towards Chu Moli. When he met the man's gaze, Han Weijiang's eyes narrowed in displeasure. There was no fear, no panic, not even anger. The young man in the wheelchair had a gentle and calm expression, and he even looked at them with interest in his eyes. It was as if they were monkeys. The stifling feeling of being looked down upon in Han Weijiang's chest suddenly surged up again. He kicked Yu Jingqing away and walked towards Chu Moli in big strides. Yu Jingqing's expression changed, he recklessly rushed over. Don't touch him. He knew that Chu Moli was very powerful. There was nothing in the world that he did not know. He could improve his cultivation, he could analyze the murderer who killed Yen Yen from the smallest clues. Chapter 4255. However, this young man was also very weak. He didn't have any spiritual power around him, and his face was abnormally pale. When he was just rescued, even his throat was broken and he couldn't speak. Chu Moli really helped him a lot during this period of time, and he finally found a target for revenge. He could endure being humiliated, but he definitely couldn't endure Chu Moli being trampled on like him. The minister wanted to stand in front of Chu Moli, but he was pulled back by Han Weijiang's subordinates. What's the rush? If you want to get beaten up by our second young master, you won't be out of it. Second young master, I've been unhappy with this cripple since just now. You must let him have a good taste of your power. I think this cripple looks pretty good, why don't we bring him back? Han Weijiang grabbed Chu Moli's clothes and grinned evilly, about to drag him down from the wheelchair. However, before he could move, his neck was suddenly grabbed by a wide and powerful palm. Immediately after, his whole body was lifted up high. Han Weijiang didn't even have time to feel the suffocating pain and powerful pressure before he opened his eyes wide in disbelief. Qin Jiuyu, what are you doing? Han Weijiang's subordinates also reacted. Qinjiu, what are you doing? Quickly put down second young master. Qinjiu, do you want a rebel? Someone rushed up and used a fist wrapped in immortal energy to attack Qinjiu. However, Qinjiu completely ignored them as if they were tickling him. He grabbed Han Weijiang's neck with one hand and punched with the other. Countless earth spikes rose from the ground, and directly sent Han Weijiang's subordinates flying. Qinjiu then turned to look at Chu Moli and asked nervously, Are you all right? Chu Moli revealed a somewhat funny expression and said warmly, Second senior brother, long time no see. Qinjiu's face reddened a bit. He wasn't good at expressing his feelings and couldn't understand complicated emotions. But at this moment, his sparkling eyes still reflected his excited emotions. Good, long time no see. Third brother, it's great that you're alive. Chu Moli said, Not only me, little junior sister, and the others are all alive. And this time, they should all be gathered at the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet. He didn't even have time to say the last sentence before he had to remind his trembling second senior brother. Second senior brother, the person in your hand is about to be crushed to death by you. Only then did Qinjiu suddenly come back to his senses and hurriedly let go. Looking at Han Weijiang, whose eyes had turned white and whose face had turned purple, he was at a loss. Is he dead? I didn't mean to. He looked at Chu Moli in a somewhat flustered manner, wanting to know if he had gotten himself into trouble. Chu Moli asked indifferently, This person is? Han Weijiang's servants suddenly came back to their senses. Qingjiu, you dare to attack second young master, you're dead. My Han family will never let you off. Second young master saved your life, yet you're biting the hand that feeds you. Chu Moli said thoughtfully, Polar Domain's Han clan? That's right, this is the second young master of our Han clan. You've offended our Han clan, so you won't have a good ending. Chu Moli didn't pay any attention to the Han clan servants who were clamoring. Chapter 4256. Due to unknown reasons, Sogu is suddenly unable to find this site today. Qingjiu trusted his fellow apprentice brothers and sisters very much. Hearing that his third brother had killed him, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. The panic on his face completely disappeared, leaving only the joy of reuniting with his junior apprentice brother. The Han clan's servant was half dead with anger. What did he mean by, just a good-for-nothing second young master of a third-rate clan, so it's fine to kill him? Who did these two think they were? They actually didn't put the Han clan in their eyes at all. Cough, cough, cough. After the servant injected spiritual power into Han Weijiang, he finally broke free from holding his breath and woke up. He glared at Qingjiu, his eyes red. You bastard, you actually dared to attack me. Did you forget who saved you back to the Han clan and let you live? Qingjiu. He held it in for a long time and finally said, I can pay you crystal stones a lot. Puff. Even with Chu Moli's calmness, he couldn't help but almost choke on his own saliva. It had to be said, from a certain point of view, the only pure and good second apprentice brother of the Xiaoyao sect was sometimes quite black-bellied. Oh, he was naturally black-bellied. Han Weijiang was about to explode from anger. Was he treating the Han clan's second young master like a beggar? Han Weijiang suddenly took out a stack of talismans and was about to attack Qingjiu. However, the next moment his collar was grabbed by someone. Han Weijiang turned around and saw Han Jiaming's expressionless face. He couldn't help but shrink his neck. However, anger quickly replaced his guilt. Brother, that bastard Qingjiu dared to betray me. Han Jiaming pushed Han Weijiang to the servant behind him and said coldly, Take the second young master back. Without my order, no one is allowed to let him out. Brother. Han Jiaming didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he coldly glanced at Han Weijiang's servants. Did I let you come out with the second young master to make trouble? When we return to the Han clan, none of you can escape punishment. The reprimanded servants turned pale. They didn't dare to delay any longer. They brought the furious Han Weijiang back to the Han family's Sumeru Mustard Seed Palace. Only then did Han Jiaming turn his head to look at Chu Moli and Qingjiu. With a gentle expression, he said somewhat apologetically, My younger brother has caused trouble for everyone. This Han will apologize to everyone here. I hope that you all will be magnanimous and not lower yourself to my younger brother's level. Yu Zhengqing had already wiped off the bloodstains on his face, and limped over to Chu Moli's back. There was no need to mention Qingjiu. He originally did not have any opinions of his own. When his fellow disciples were present, he would unconditionally listen to them. Han Jiaming's gaze towards Chu Moli couldn't help but deepen. This man clearly looked extremely weak, as if he did not even have the cultivation of a golden immortal. However, Yu Zhengqing, who was at the peak of the golden immortal realm, and Qingjiu, who even he was slightly afraid of, completely followed his lead. Who was this person? Han Jiaming's mind spun at lightning speed, but he didn't show it on his face. He cupped his hands towards Chu Moli and said, I am Han Jiaming of the Polar Domain's Han clan. May I know who you are? Chu Moli said in a gentle voice, Xiaoyao sect Chu Moli. This is Thunder Ray sect's Yu Zhengqing. Han Jiaming said, It's an honor to meet you. Yu Zhengqing sneered, Honor my ass. Thunder Ray sect has already been exterminated. I have never heard of Xiaoyao sect. How can it be an honor to meet you? Han Jiaming was rebuked, but he didn't get angry at all. He still had a gentle and calm smile on his face. Coupled with his outstanding face, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was an elegant young master. So, Qingjiu is also a member of Xiaoyao sect. Chapter 4257. Chu Moli nodded. Speaking of which, I still have to thank the Han family for saving my second senior brother Qingjiu. If you need any help in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. As for whether or not he would help after asking, that was another matter. Chu Moli thought irresponsibly. Han Jiaming was obviously very clear about this point. First of all, saving Qingjiu was just bringing him back to the Han family. He didn't even need to use a single pill for Qingjiu to recover. Second of all, he couldn't figure out the identities of these people, but Qingjiu's strength was there for all to see. If he forcefully asked for repayment, it wouldn't be good for the Han family's trip to the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet. After considering the pros and cons, Han Jiaming casually greeted them and left. Looking at his back, Yu Jingqing let out a long sigh. Han family's young master's character is not bad. No wonder many female cultivators in the Xiuxian continent think of him as their dream lover and even named him as one of the 4 young masters. Chu Moli lightly hooked his lips and didn't answer Yu Jingqing's words. Not bad? Hee. His schemes are deep and his schemes are big enough, that's true. Just as Han Jiaming was about to enter the Sumeru Mustard Palace, he heard a woman's voice coming from behind him. Big brother Han, are you really going to marry the demon princess? Han Jiaming turned around and saw a beautiful woman wearing a blue dress looking at him with tears in her eyes. The sadness and unwillingness in her eyes were almost overflowing. Big brother Han, do you really like the demon princess? You haven't even seen her face and you're going to marry her and share a wife with another man. Are you really willing? Han Jiaming lightly sighed, his face revealed a struggling and painful expression. He turned his head to avoid the woman's eyes and said hoarsely, as the Han family's young master, I have to shoulder the Han family's heavy burden and future. Yanfei, I hope you can understand me. I don't have the qualifications to talk about liking someone, even if my heart only has. He stopped in the middle of his sentence. But the woman seemed to understand something. She excitedly rushed forward and grabbed Han Jiaming's hand. Big brother Han, although my Yuya pavilion can't compare to the demon race, it is still a first-rate family in the Nether Realm. My father even has the strength of a peak immortal king. If you want to revitalize the Han family, I can help you. Big brother Han, can you promise me that you will withdraw from the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet and not marry the demon race's princess? Han Jiaming seemed to be moved by her words. His eyes sparkled with affection and gratitude. Yanfei, I don't deserve this. He closed his eyes and said dejectedly, attending the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet is my father's order. As the young master of the Han family, I can't disobey him. But I can't sincerely marry the demon princess because in my heart, there's already a place for another woman. Big brother Han. Tears streamed down Shi Yanfei's face. She threw herself into Han Jiaming's arms and sobbed, I don't care, brother Han. You're the only one in my heart. Even if you marry the demon princess, I will not give up. Since the demon race princess can hug one on each side, why can't you? As long as big brother Han has me in your heart, even if I have to share you with another woman, even if I have to submit to the demon race's princess, I'm willing. The two of them hid in a corner of the palace and hugged each other tightly. Han Jiaming couldn't help but kiss her lips. When the two of them separated, Shi Yanfei was even more confused and infatuated. Chapter 42-58. Han Jiaming gently strokes her long hair, softly saying, Yanfei, you should go back first, otherwise your brother will come out to look for you. Shi Yanfei reluctantly says goodbye to him. She sees that Han Jiaming hasn't entered the door, but is looking at her with deep affection. Satisfied, she hurries away. Waiting until Shi Yanfei's figure disappears, Han Jiaming's lips curve up, and he lets out a low laugh. Where is the deep affection from just now in this laughter? Only contempt and ridicule remain. Suddenly, something on his waist shines with a dark red light. Han Jiaming's complexion changes and he quickly looks around. After making sure that no one is watching, he reaches out and gently touches his waist. The submerged abyss boundary is about to open. What's the matter that needs to be contacted at this time? A man's careless voice comes from the other side. Everything has been arranged in the demon palace so you can't make any mistakes. If you fail to become the demon princess son-in-law and ruin master's plan, you should know the consequences. Han Jiaming's face shows a confident smile. When have I ever made a mistake in the task that master gave me? Alright, is there anything else? But there's a piece of news. If you don't know, then your task will inevitably fail. What news? It's about the demon princess's true identity. She's called Jun Mayan, perhaps a descendant of the Shin musicians. Han Jiaming's pupils suddenly contract, and his fingers suddenly clench into a fist. That originally handsome and gentle, jade-like face in an instant distorts into a hideous and frightening evil spirit. He opens his mouth to speak, but hears a hurried voice from the other side. The submerged abyss boundary is about to open. Remember, you must obtain the demon princess. Even if you can't obtain her heart, you must obtain her body. This is crucial to master's plan. If there's any mistake, you and I will both die without a burial ground. Boom? Almost at the same time that the voice in Han Jiaming's ears fades away, a red light rises to the sky. Immediately after, countless demon soldiers, led by Demon General Tianhe and the Wine Boy, come out in a line, standing on both sides of the submerged abyss. Tianhe walked forward shakily and said nonchalantly, "The heavenly Enchantress banquet is about to begin. Everyone, please enter the hidden abyss and pay your respects to the Demon Lord and the Princess." His tone was frivolous, but his voice was heard by every spirit cultivator within a radius of several hundred miles. The method to enter the hidden abyss is very simple. You only need to inject your divine sense into the jade slip and everyone within a 3-meter radius will be teleported to the heavenly enchantment banquet. Everyone please. Han Jiaming did not dare to delay any longer and hurriedly entered the palace. As more and more sects and clans activated their invitations to enter the hidden abyss, the number of buildings in the surroundings decreased, until there was no one left. Tianhe looked at the empty hidden abyss and his face darkened. Damned polar domain, damned Di Mingju, they received the invitation but didn't come to the heavenly enchantment banquet. What the hell is the meaning of this? Hehe, you want to marry our princess with this attitude? Dream on. The wine boy did not speak, but after using his divine sense to detect that there was indeed no one from the polar domain around, he could not help but frown. Let's go back and report to the Demon Lord. If the polar domain's sovereign lord truly received the invitation and didn't come, it would be the same as ruthlessly slapping the demon race in the face. This enmity wasn't something that could be easily resolved. Chapter 4259. Zhongli greets Your Highness. Today's Zhongli was wearing a solemn dark red priest robe. He bowed towards Mu Yan. Your Highness, please allow me to perform the soul-cleansing baptism for you. Mu Yan raised her eyebrows. Shuijie explained, this is a tradition of the demon clan. Before any important ceremony, the master of the demon palace has to perform the soul-cleansing baptism. Since you and the demon venerable are the only masters in the demon palace, and the enchantment banquet is a sacred ceremony of the demon clan, Lord Zhongli will perform the soul-cleansing baptism for you and the demon venerable before the enchantment banquet. Zhongli also smiled, Your Highness, please rest assured. The soul-cleansing baptism is for the divine soul. It is good for both demon cultivators and spirit cultivators. Shuijie also nodded. Not to mention the demon venerables who had received the soul-cleansing baptism, even the trusted subordinates of the demon venerables who had been protecting them would feel refreshed and even their cultivation would be improved if they touched a little bit of the demonic fire of the soul-cleansing baptism. The demon venerable didn't like to hold big ceremonies, so there were very few opportunities for the soul-cleansing baptism. Occasionally there were a few, but they were taken away by Tianhe, Wine Boy, and other animals who didn't know how to be gentle to the fairer sex. This time Shuijie followed Mu Yan shamelessly because she wanted to get some of the demon fire of the soul-cleansing baptism. She hoped that she could make a breakthrough in her cultivation. Fortunately, Devil Blade had a conscience and didn't fight with her. After listening to Zhongli and Shuijie's explanation, Mu Yan slightly frowned. But she couldn't find any reason to refuse, so she could only accept. The soul-cleansing baptism was supposed to be performed in the priest hall. But the demon venerable changed the location to Mu Yan's bedroom with the excuse that the princess was stimulated in the priest hall a few days ago. The low chanting was like the sound of Sanskrit from the sky, coming from far to near, echoing in the room. The dark green flame burned around Zhongli and jumped. Then it slowly flew to Mu Yan and surrounded her. The demon aura was so dense that it could almost turn into a solid substance. It surrounded Zhongli, making the magic nucleus in her body spin quickly. Mu Yan felt a stream of energy entering her meridians and flesh, washing away the impurities that blocked the demon aura. The strange thing was that the devil chi was completely opposite to the energy waves of spiritual power, immortal power, and even divine power. But in Mu Yan's body, it can operate independently, not interfering with each other. As the dark green flames brushed past her body inch by inch, Mu Yan could feel her devil body crazily absorbing the energy of the flames and becoming stronger. Zhongli couldn't help but look up at her in horror, and then he lowered his eyes. His fingers, which were originally forming seals, changed their angles slightly, and the incantation he was chanting also changed by a syllable. Mu Yan is enjoying the comfortable feeling of her magic body being strengthened, when she suddenly feels her body tremble. It was as if something cold and bone-piercing had drilled into her sea of consciousness. But when she wanted to confirm what it was, she couldn't find any trace of it. Demon Core, Dantian, Meridians, Sea of Knowledge, Domain, Sword Heart. There was no problem. Mu Yan's complexion changes. Because there was no problem, that was the biggest problem. Zhongli slowly retracted his hands and the dark green flames disappeared. A gentle smile appeared on his pale face because of the excessive consumption of demon aura. Your Highness, the soul cleansing baptism ceremony has been completed, so I will take my leave. I hope that the princess can find a suitable husband at the Heavenly Charm Banquet. Chapter 4260. After Zhongli left, Xuejie revealed an excited expression. Your Highness, was I wrong? The soul cleansing baptism can strengthen the demon body and solidify the divine soul. This subordinate has only touched a little bit of it, and the bottleneck that has been stuck for a long time is about to break through. Thank you, Princess, for allowing me to stay here. Then I'll take my leave first. It's time, and the human spirit cultivators have probably entered. I'll help you check if there are any pretty boys worthy of your Highness keeping as your mistress. Even though Mayan is full of misgivings, she can't help but smile at this time. The members of the Devil clan, from her father to the Devil Lord, to the Devil Generals, Devil Masters, Devil Guards, and Devil Soldiers, were all competing with one another. How much did they want her to have more women and pick more men? After Xuejie leaves, Mu Yan immediately summons the old man, the real Zhongli. She went straight to the point and said, I feel that Wenjie must have done something to me during the soul-cleansing baptism. Although Zhongli still has the appearance of an old man, under the treatment of the Tian Mo Qin by Mu Yan, he is already much better than before. With the fading of his wrinkles, one could indeed see that he was somewhat similar to the fake Zhongli from the priest hall. Zhongli's face changed dramatically when he heard this. He quickly took out the 9 revolutions heaven-defying bead, muttered something, and then asked Mu Yan to press her hand on the crystal ball. A moment later, his brows furrowed slightly. I didn't notice anything being done to the princess. Princess, how are you so sure that Wenjie attacked you? Mu Yan purses her lips and doesn't speak. That's just a kind of intuition. It's an instinct that she's left behind after going through trials and hardships from the Yanwu continent to the Xiaoxian continent. However, she could not explain this feeling, nor could she explain why she felt that Zhongli had done something to her. Just as Mu Yan was about to speak, she heard a loud explosion in the distance. Then, the beautiful music spread across the entire demon imperial city. The heavenly enchantment banquet had finally begun. Hey, I'm asking you. Which main city are you from? Luo Yu only came back to her senses when someone patted her shoulder heavily. He discovered that the one who called out to him was a somewhat strange-looking demon. He revealed a cute and obedient smile. What was a main city? How did he know which main city he was from? Speaking of which, it was all Yi Qingfeng's fault. Of all the ways to sneak into the demon race, he just had to roll in through the crack in the desert. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw dozens of magical beasts baring their fangs at him, wanting to swallow him whole. Fortunately, Yi Qingfeng was also a spirit and devil dual cultivator. He directly used his body to channel devil chi and killed the demonic beast. Only then could the two of them make it here alive. It could be said that his luck was bad, but it could also be said that his luck was really good. When they came out of the Demon Cloud Ridge, the first city they saw was the largest demon imperial city. In the past, the Devil Imperial City was shrouded in a powerful barrier. Other than the permitted teleportation formation, no one could enter or leave the city. However, today was just in time for the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet. The Demon Lord had ordered that all the demons in the Hidden Abyss were qualified to watch the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet and pay respects to the princess. The gate of the Devil Imperial City was opened for the first time. Hence, Luo Yu followed the rest of the demons and charged in. Hey kid, I'm talking to you. Did you hear me? Which main city did you come from? Who do you think will be able to become the princess's son-in-law at this Heavenly Enchantment Banquet? Chapter 4261. Ha 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 ha. The strange-looking demon immediately laughed out loud and patted his shoulder. Great minds think alike, great minds think alike. I'm also a loyal supporter of Demon King Yi. We've all sold our pots and pans and spent all the mabe we had to rush over from a 2-star main city. Let's go, I'll bring you to join our Demon King Ye's main camp. In this time's Heavenly Enchantment Banquet, we must ensure that our Demon King Ye's supporters are stronger than anyone else's. Even when facing the Polar Domain's monarch, we absolutely cannot fall into a disadvantage. I don't know how many son-in-law Her Highness will marry this time, but no matter what, our demon king Yi must be the biggest one, the official son-in-law. Luo Yu was dragged away by someone's shoulder in a daze. Her brain was a mess. What the hell? Demon King Yi? Official son-in-law? Is it sixth senior sister? Wait, sixth senior sister, what did you do? Why do you not only have the title of Demon King Yi, but also want to be the official son-in-law? You're a woman, how can you be the princess son-in-law? The strange demon scream suddenly came to his ears. He quickly retracted his hand and looked at Luo Yu suspiciously. Do you have thorns on your body? Luo Yu was dumbfounded. What? Forget it, let's go. It's more important for us to return to the camp. What? The male demon screamed again. This time he didn't dare to touch Luo Yu anymore. He retreated a few steps and looked at her as if she was a monster. Just now, when she stabbed his hand, it was as if his entire soul was stabbed. It was too painful. Seeing the little demon soldier looking at him innocently, the male demon wondered if it was his illusion. Hearing the shouts of his companions in the distance, he didn't dare to delay and hurriedly led Luo Yu forward. As Luo Yu ran, she secretly flicked the small silver halberd at her waist. Yi Qingfeng, was it you who did that just now? The state preceptor was as quiet as a chicken and pretended not to hear. Luo Yu snorted and was quickly brought by the strange demon to the camp of Yi Liangchen's supporters. At this moment he already knew that this grotesque devil was called Hongwu, and he came from the 2-star Red Star City. Back then he was also one of the devils who signed up for the betrothal contest. Unfortunately, because his appearance didn't meet the examiner's aesthetic standards, he was eliminated before the contest even started. After seeing Demon King Ye's heroic appearance on the Crimson Star Plaza and buying the devil pill from the Qingguang ruins, he became Yi Liangchen's diehard fan. Those who came with Hongwu were basically demons from Red Star City and the 2-star main cities around Red Star City. Their slogan was, "The great Demon King Yi is invincible in the world. The netherworld of the polar domain is not fit to carry his shoes. The princess's son-in-law is none other than us." Luo Yu was speechless. He was already so blunt and vulgar, yet he still had a rhyme to it? What are you waiting for? Shout. We must suppress the arrogance of those spirit cultivators. That's right. Even if they're the 4 candidates of the demon race, we can't let them overshadow Demon King Yi. Luo Yu opened her mouth and the words were at the tip of her tongue, but she couldn't spit them out. She turned her head and covered her face. I'm sorry, sixth senior sister. It's not that I don't want to support you, but the slogan of your supporters is too fucking shameful. Luo Yu was originally worried that she would be forced to shout shameful slogans. But in the next moment, there was a loud bang and the dazzling red light exploded in the sky, turning into colorful flowing lights. Chapter 4262. Melodious music drifted into his ears. The originally dusky area in front of them, which was covered by a barrier, instantly brightened up. The heavenly Enchantress banquet was filled with dazzling lanterns and colorful satin. Although the honored demon lord allowed any demon from the hidden abyss to watch the heavenly Enchantress banquet, the honored demon lord was not a demon lord. However, not every demon could enter the heavenly enchantment banquet. The venue of the heavenly enchantment banquet was called the Heavenly Enchantment Palace, which was also a Sumeru mustard treasure. Only during the heavenly enchantment banquet would the heavenly enchantment palace be placed in the center of the demon palace. The heavenly enchantment palace could accommodate thousands of demons and spirit cultivators at the same time, and it was one of the few holy artifact spatial spaces that could be filled with rich spirit chi, immortal chi and devil chi. The center of the heavenly charm palace had been decorated with gold and jade since a few months ago. As the music played, the enchanting and beautiful succubus danced in the middle of the pool in the middle of the hall. The surroundings of the hall were separated by a barrier, which could accommodate hundreds of thousands of devils. Luo Yu was currently on the viewing platform. Every scene of the banquet below could be seen clearly, and they could hear the voices that were deliberately amplified. However, there were some whispers that he couldn't hear clearly even if he gathered his spiritual energy into his ears. As time passed, more and more people entered the venue. Most of the people who entered at the beginning were from the demon race, so no one specially announced or shouted. However, he didn't need anyone to sing. Yap Liangchen's supporters beside Luo Yu were already shouting excitedly beside his ear. Elder Minwei. It's the kindest and greatest Elder Minwei of our devil race. I heard that this year's Heavenly Enchantment Banquet was initiated and hosted by Elder Minwei in order to promote the prestige of our devil race. Elder Minwei, who was forced to throw the blame on the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet. How I wish I could chop up all those idiots who organized the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet. except for the demon lord, and feed them to the dogs. Look, it's Elder Wu Zhuang and Elder Mu Chang. The captain of the second blood demon squad, Wu Feng, and the captain of the first squad, Guan Yu, are also here. Why does Captain Guan Yu look haggard? Lord Yue, look, Lord Yue is here. That was the leader of the Blood Demon Squad 3, the one who was most likely to inherit the Blood Demon Marshal's token. Our Demon King Ye's competition in Red Star City was hosted by her. Yes, it was in Red Star City that Demon King Yi broke Lady Yoyue's 5 Ghost Chili Windsword formation, that he stood out and began his journey of dominating the abyss. You bunch of idiots still don't know? Demon King Yi did not come from Red Star City at all. She came from the one-star main city, Bloody Flame City. Did you see that? Lord Yuing had just walked past. She was the one who had unearthed Demon King Yi from Blood Flame City. Now that Lord Yuing has become famous, there are many male devils who wish to worship under her skirt and become her devil pet. In the corner, a few devils from the 4-star Immortal Slaughtering City looked at each other and smiled. A bunch of foolish mortal demons. They were still dreaming of seeing Demon King Yi become the princess's son-in-law. Little did they know that the true identity of the great Demon King Yi was enough to scare them to death. That was Her Highness the Princess. Our Highness the Princess was so awesome. From a 1-star main city to a 4-star main city, no one below the Demon Lord could match her. They really wanted to roar, "The great Demon King Yi in your mouths is the Supreme Princess Highness." Chapter 4263. However, they had been ordered to keep their mouths shut by the demon deity. Thus, watching this group of idiots discussing, they were having a hard time holding it in. The melodious music slowly stopped and the succubus dance came to an end. Elder Min Wei stood at the seat of honor in the hall. He raised his hand and pressed down slightly. The pressure of a peak demon general was released. In an instant, the noisy enchantment hall quieted down bit by bit. When all the noise disappeared, Elder Min Wei bowed and said in a voice that was neither loud nor soft, but loud enough for everyone to hear, "Welcome, demon deity. Welcome, your highness." Whoosh 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 whoosh. Almost at the same time, Luo Yu saw all the demons kneel down. It would be too eye-catching if they were still standing. Left with no choice, Luo Yu knelt down as well. His ears were filled with deafening shouts. "Welcome, demon deity. Welcome, your highness." Powerful demonic energy spread in the air. Tens of thousands of demons crowded the spectator stand, but at this moment, it was silent. Luo Yu had wanted to sneak a peek at the demon deity and the princess, but at this moment, even though the enchantment hall was filled with spiritual energy and immortal energy, he couldn't even lift his head. A drop of sweat rolled down his forehead silently. Because he was a spirit cultivator, the pressure the demon deity gave him was far greater than the demonic cultivators around him. If he didn't have Bai Zhe in his body and Yi Qingfeng's demonic energy protecting him, he would be in an even more pathetic state. Was this the supreme ruler of the demons, the demon deity who could stand side by side with Tutor Mo and dominate the entire Xiuxian continent? Sixth senior sister, you disguised yourself as a man to marry someone else's daughter. What would you do if you're exposed? The terrifying pressure lasted for an unknown amount of time before it suddenly disappeared. The surrounding area was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. It was as if someone had thrown a stone into a lake that was as calm as stagnant water, and it suddenly came alive. Was it the demon deity and the princess who just walked past? Sob, I was able to enter the demon imperial city and see the demon deity and the princess. Even if I spent all my savings, it was worth it. I have no more regrets in life. Dithe, you speak as if you saw the demon lord and the princess clearly. Did you dare to raise your head just now? All the demons looked at each other in dismay. Then they opened their eyes at the same time. Just now, the demon venerable's coercion was so powerful and terrifying that they almost stopped breathing. Their demon cores felt like they were about to explode. How could they still have the courage to peek at the demon venerable and the princess? Although the pressure had disappeared, the honor demon, the princess, and the accompanying priest, Lord Zhongli, had all entered the water curtain. From afar they could only see the silhouette of their silhouettes but not their faces. Luo Yu also felt a little regretful. It wasn't easy for them to make a trip to the demon race's territory, and it was such a waste that they didn't get to see their big shot. The demon venerable and the princess sat down. Priest Zhongli led Saintess Emolian onto the altar, and the demon blood guards took their positions. The crystal staff gently brushed past the bronze cauldron in the center of the altar. The long-robed priest lowered his eyes, his hands forming complicated hand seals, chanting an ancient spell. In the next moment, the bronze cauldron burned with raging flames. Elder Minwei raised his voice and shouted, "The heavenly Enchantress feast of the demon race begins now. The heavenly Enchantress feast begins. His deep and vigorous voice echoed in the heavenly Enchantress palace. Chapter 4264. Due to unknown reasons, Sogu is suddenly unable to find this site today. The deep and vigorous echo lingered in the heavenly charm palace. Guests from the heavenly enchantment banquet, please enter. Han clan of the northern region. North region Toad Palace. North region Fushi sect. Southern domain 7 Strings sect. The Ouyang family of the southern region. Southern region's Grace Pavilion. Shadow Moon Gate of the West Wilderness. The Wu family of the Western Wilderness. East Si Tianyin Temple. As the names of the families and sects were announced one after another, the heavenly charm palace lit up from time to time. Every time a light flashed, a group of people would appear in the empty seats in the center of the venue. Some had 3 to 5 people, some had more than 10 people, and some even had close to 100 people. The demons in the stands looked at the spirit cultivators with great interest, pointing at them and commenting on them. His tone sounded like he was talking about a wild beast in an iron cage. There wasn't even the slightest bit of respect for the demon race's elders and generals from before. When Luo Yu heard Hongwu calling the gigolo a sissy and saying that the man was horse-faced and ugly, she almost burst out laughing. With Hongwu's strange polygonal face, he had the nerve to mock others for being ugly. But at the same time he listened with great interest. The devil race spoke completely according to their hearts, not beating around the bush in the slightest. They said one thing but meant another, so it was especially easy to get along with them. Oh right, wasn't the Polar Domain's sovereign lord coming as well? Why hasn't he appeared yet? Don't tell me he's not coming? What the hell? You accepted the invitation but didn't come. Aren't you not giving our demon race any face? Even the Polar Domain's sovereign lord cannot tolerate it. That's right, your father, have long since disliked those guys from the Polar Domain. So what if they're immortal emperors? We'll flatten the entire Polar Domain. Luo Yu shrank her neck and thought to herself, since 6th senior sister is here, the wife-chasing maniac teacher Mo should be here, right? He was just about to inquire about the various powers that would be attending the heavenly enchantment banquet. Suddenly, from the corner of his eyes, he saw a figure below. His eyes widened and he stood up straight. Hey little demon soldier, what are you doing? The match hasn't started yet, so it's useless even if you stand up. Luo Yu clenched her fists tightly and took a deep breath. Only then did she control her expression and continue slowly. 4th senior sister. He actually saw 4th senior sister in the Yin-Yang sect just now. Furthermore, there was a familiar little monk sitting beside her. Wasn't that their 4th brother-in-law, Master Jing Yuan? Luo Yu had not seen her fellow disciples for a long time. At this moment she was so excited that she wanted to rush down and hug Leng Yuma. Unfortunately, the viewing platform was outside the barrier. Even if he wanted to rush in, he couldn't. He heard that the heavenly enchantment banquet would last for 2 days and 2 nights. He would definitely be able to find a chance to enter the banquet. At least he saw 4th senior sister here, didn't he? Luo Yu had just calmed down when her eyes suddenly widened. This time, Elder Minwei announced the arrival of rogue cultivators or cultivators from small sects and clans. The light flashed and Luo Yu almost shouted, because he saw 2 more familiar faces. 2nd apprentice brother Qin Jiao and 3rd apprentice brother Chu Moli. That was great. Sure enough, everyone had received 6th senior sister's message in the Qingguang ruins and rushed to the enchanting heavenly banquet? Then only eldest apprentice brother and 5th apprentice brother were left. Where were they now? Did they receive news from 6th senior sister? Luo Yu's worries only spun in his mind for less than a quarter of an hour before completely disappearing. Because very quickly he saw 5th apprentice brother Ling Yuxing among another group of rogue cultivators that were teleported in. Chapter 4265. Next to him was a beautiful and tall woman. The color of her clothes was bright and didn't match Ling Yuxing's usual style, but Luo Yu could still recognize her at a glance. As for Yun Ruhan, he surprised Luo Yu even more. He actually walked out from behind the water curtain. Those behind him were the higher-ups of the demon race, right? Why did Yun Ruhan go there? At this moment Luo Yu's mind was in a mess. The joy of reuniting was mixed with the confusion in her heart. Then he realized something in hindsight. Wait a minute. Yun Ruhan, second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth senior sister and fifth senior brother were all at the banquet. Sixth senior sister was the candidate for the princess's husband. So in the end, everyone from the Xiaoyao sect was at the banquet, and he was the only one watching from the spectator stand. Did he enter the demon race the wrong way? Luo Yu clenched his teeth and grabbed the small halberd at his waist. Yi Qingfeng, come out and talk about life. What kind of path did you choose for me? Noises came from the banquet hall of the Heavenly Enchantment Palace. Mu Yin had just taken off her princess attire and put on Yi Liangqin's clothes. Night Spirit followed behind her and looked around from time to time. After making sure there was no one around, she said in a low voice, Princess, Liangqin, are you really going to attend the Heavenly Enchantment Banquet with this identity? Mu Yin smiled and glanced at her. Why? Can't I? Don't you want to see Yi Liangqin again? She paused and smiled. If Yi Liangqin doesn't say anything and doesn't appear again, won't those who came to support me be disappointed? When Night Spirit heard that, she instinctively tilted her head to listen, and the call of Demon King Yi immediately entered her ears. She couldn't help but recall the scene a few months ago when she fought a bloody path out of Blood Flame City with the girl beside her. At that time, she never thought that the girl she saved from the Demon Cloud Ridge was the Supreme Princess. What moved her the most was that even though Yi Liangqin had become the princess, her attitude towards her and Yu Ying had never changed. That's right, the demon race princess is indeed supreme, and can bring endless vanity and benefits. However, to her, the one who was truly engraved in her heart was the girl who disguised herself as a man and went by the name of Yi Liangqin. A bright smile appeared on Night Spirit's face. No, I really want to see Yi Liangqin. She would cheer for Yi Liangqin as much as she had done before. Even if Yap Liangqin won against everyone in the enchantment banquet, he could only marry himself. Oh, Liangqin, you're indeed the leader of the immortal slaying city. Mayan has just found her place and is about to sit down when she hears a familiar voice. She saw that Bailey Weiran was wearing a blue and white brocade robe with his hair tied up with a jade crown. He looked even more handsome than usual. At this moment he was looking at her with a burning gaze. Mu Yin casually nods. Congratulations. There were only 4 seats at this small table, and they were reserved for the final candidates for the betrothal contest. Since Bailey Weiran was here, it meant that he was also the final candidate for the princess's husband. As for the other 2 people, Mu Yin also casually glanced at them. They were all people with outstanding appearances and extraordinary auras. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.